really know how that happened.
Well, just for our viewers, just if anyone wants to check, this is Dan Crosby. You could go to his website, Dan Crosby CEO. You're like a human conglomerate. I can't even, we could do a whole show on just the stuff. So we talked about Canadian Protein. You bought Fox Glen, turned it to Coachwood Golf and Country Club. Mm-hmm. You also own Coachwood Capital, which is the
real estate. We specialize in bringing Canadian real estate investors into American property.
Perfect. Now you have Canadian Meal Prep.
Yeah.
Where you're
that's
making
a good business to get. That's going to boom.
Yeah, we run it out of the golf course, right? The golf course has a big kitchen.
Oh, perfect.
So we leverage
and this
the golf
Lux
course.
VIP, is that the limo bus?
The limo company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can
what's the limo company in Windsor?
Yes, Luxus VIP. We got a couple limos. Okay. It was something that I ended up starting because at one point I was going back and forth a lot to Toronto and other cities here and there, and I wasn't able to work while I was driving. So I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna buy a limo. When I'm not using it, I'm gonna hire it out.
Exactly.
So I ended up getting a couple more limos. I ended up getting my dealership license under that. So I'm gonna be selling cars and shit like that.
Oh,
like more like so more like.
Do you sleep?
Yeah, no, not much.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so like, more like exotic and kind of I ended up I bought a 2006 M6. The other day, BMW M6, so it was gonna be like the first one we're gonna offload. Yeah, it's kind of like a unique car.
Nice.
Yeah, but
cool. So I cut you off on your real estate, but keep going on down that road.
So and then obviously the industrial property ended up really exploding around town as well, and after that ended, I guess the glory days of huge returns in industrial. The only place left was to take my business across the border. So then I bought a 56-unit apartment building in Canton, Michigan. That was my first American purchase. And the returns were stupid there too. Yeah, so it's 56-unit, 55 plus senior community. And the returns were crazy there. And then people around town were like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing here? And we want in on these deals and stuff like that. So I ended up opening up, Coachwood Capital, and now we bring in investors. I built out all the logistics and all the legal logistics and the accounting logistics of it, which it's a daunting.
How long's that been going on now?
A couple years.
Okay.
We did our first deal. That property in Canton. That was about 3 years ago. I did another deal in North Miami Beach for we got a 58-unit property down in North Miami Beach, a couple minutes from the water there. That was last year around this time. And I got another property in Melbourne, Florida right now locked up.
Nice.
Yeah. So, right on the water actually in Melbourne. Yeah.
So you expecting some major opportunities later this year, or what are you expecting in the real estate market?
You know what? I don't really get into that whole game.
Trying to predict.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
But it's fun, right?
It is. It's fun. It's not that you can't predict trends.
Sure.
I'll give you an example.
Because black swans can change everything, and your philosophy went right out the window.
If we've learned anything over the last 2-3 years, is that you can't do it. Number one, and then number two. As soon as you think you could do it, here's the black swan. Right? So
you're right about to be right.
Exactly.
You're about to be right, and now you're wrong.
You can't you could throw any graph you want in front of me. I don't give a shit what it is. I buy property right this is the way that I buy property. If I would live there, that's check number one.
Okay.
If the number's paper, check number two. If the economy is volatile, I'll build in a little bit of risk. Check number three. And if they accept the deal that way, I'm good. I've got my set criteria. I usually need to see around.
What was the second type criteria? The cash what?
If it papers. If I run the analytics, if it makes sense in terms of so for example, I'll get into that. Like I don't have too many crazy requirements. I want to see 7% cash on cash expressed as an average over 5 years. And I want to see a 25% average over the course of, an average annualized return of 25% per year. If I see that with the risk built in because of the volatility in the market, I'm good. You can't really expect more than that. And that'll get you maybe some sort of a return of a total ROI of, around 5 years, probably around at least, somewhere in the vicinity of 150 to 200%. Wow. So, I mean, what more do you want?
That's great.
Right? Like those are good returns, right? So that's the way I approach real estate. I don't approach real estate where all of these guys, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I love Twitter, first of all.
Same.
And but the funny thing about Twitter is you get all these motherfuckers that are on there that like they love graphs and charts. Holy fuck, I've never seen something.
I'm a chart guy.
And that's fine. That's fine. I can see why charts make more sense in your world, but like, shut the fuck up with these charts about all these macroeconomics.
I'm a macro.
Like, that's what I was telling Marcello though. Your stuff. The reason why I want to be educated on your shit is because your stuff seems to live more in that macroeconomic world.
Very long.
Exactly, right. Whereas mine, I take those 3 check boxes.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm good, man.
Yeah,
like I'm good.
Yeah.
So even for me, like a lot of people are like, "Well, what the fuck are you talking about? If you would live there, you buy it." But that accomplishes so many things.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Huge,
It accomplishes safety. Amenities.
For sure.
Location to amenities.
Airport.
Like everything. Yeah. That accomplishes so many things.
Like when I was looking for my first home, I was very picky.
Yeah.
Where to live. You think about your kid.
Yeah.
All those factors. So if you put that in, that's I
agree.
Yeah.
So it's
Florida, Texas are 2 of the areas you focus on.
I'll buy anything that makes a return, and I see those, and I see those economics.
But you must be looking in certain states.
I look into so here's the thing that I'll look into. Number 1, I want to see some population growth. Number 2, I want to see how the job market's performing. Number 3, I want to see if there's an oversupply of housing either on its way to being built or already built. So I want to see the absorption rate.
Sure.
If there's more properties coming available than the absorption rate of tenants absorbing those properties, then that's a problem, right? But usually in markets that you see, with population growth and the job market growth, you usually don't see that kind of influx. So it kind of accomplished, you don't really have to worry about absorption rate too much.
Right.
In terms of those economic drivers, if it's not a senior community, then those kind of those will matter a little bit more to me.
For sure.
If I'm looking at majority senior properties, or if I'm looking at a senior property, I don't really care too much.
Right.
Because I look at the U.S. as a whole, and the U.S. population is aging.
Big time.
And seniors, they typically are on a fixed income. A lot of them aren't snowbirds. Versus what everybody seems to believe, they don't have the money to just constantly fucking bounce back and forth.
No.
And even in Windsor, the majority, I own a shit ton of property off of Banwell area, and those like HOA areas, they're all senior.
Yeah.
They don't leave, right? They're quiet. There's no problems.
You're right.
They respect your shit.
They pay.
They pay.
Sometimes they'll have issues here and there, but you have them. Yeah, you have them, right? But in terms of specific properties, I don't care where it is if I'm dealing with senior stuff.
Is that going to be your focus, you think, going forward?
I like, so what I truly do like is number 1, senior. Number 2, proximity to water.
Yeah.
So I like the ability to maybe hop on a bike and get to water somewhere.
Sure.
Right? That's a big...
Because people are always going to want to live there.
Yeah. People love water, man. And but over and above, if I'm not going to buy something on a lake or on an ocean where it's like the economy's dead.
Yeah, right.
Right. So those numbers still play.
Sure.
But for example, Kent, Michigan, I bought that property in Kent. Kent's a beautiful area.
Yeah, I heard.
But it's not like it's fucking booming. Right.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, Kent, Michigan. It's a senior property. It's extremely stable. I have no problem renting that place, and those people don't leave unless they die. So there you go.
Yeah.
Or they go into an assisted living facility.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very stable. So I like to fluctuate in between extremely, very high market rent, which is proximity to water. You'll get top dollar, right? And people seem to be less transient next to water because those are far and few between. So though they won't risk leaving.
Right.
And then I like, so that's on the higher market in terms of rent. I've got a couple programs. No, not even agents. Yeah, I get sent all kinds of shit from agents too, but I've got a couple programs that will trigger certain opportunities based off certain economics and criteria.
AI programs.
Yeah. So I've got that will trigger certain areas and certain things that will that I have a preset criteria. When a property comes up for sale or whatever, then I can also search any property that I want in the U.S. based off of certain, if it's a senior or if it based on the economic or the submarket data. I can pull different properties based off of that are for sale or not for sale.
Right.
Yeah. So it depends whatever hits my desk. Yeah. Cool. So it's interesting. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Maybe you want to learn now about precious metals and stick to hard assets like that. So
what I want to know is okay. So I'm a big proponent of if I'm putting my money in something and if it's not paying me monthly,
understand,
right? I'm not a player in that.
Sure.
But I want to know
why I am.
Yeah, because I hear this shit from him all the time. Yeah. And I want to know why. Yeah. Like sell me on it, and I want to know.
There's a few reasons, but I think right now we're living during very extraordinary times.
Yeah.
We're seeing inflation today that we haven't seen in over 40 years. The money printing programs we've seen since 2008. Now you got COVID. Now you have a banking crisis in the U.S. that's just starting. So I mean, the trillions of dollars that have been printed are devaluing our dollar. And then you got all the government debt. U.S. is $31 trillion in debt. The whole world's in debt. Individuals are in debt. Businesses are in debt. So debt can only go so far until the system collapses. So we're in a debt-based economy. So when that system will end is when interest rates start to rise at a rapid rate. And that's what we're starting to see now. So the risk is that when the US dollar loses its reserve currency status, which I think is, it could be months away, it could be years away. It's inevitable though, right? But when that happens, that's the risk. And that's the thing that can change the world. And it won't be the same world we have today. Okay. Especially in North America. Okay. So when the U.S. loses that reserve currency status, which it's begun because you have countries that are leaving the U.S. dollar for trade when it comes to the petrol, for purchasing oil. Saudi Arabia's bailing. They're going to join the BRICS. You're seeing Brazil just join forces with Saudi Arabia and China. So you're seeing more countries leaving the US dollar and moving to these BRIC nations. Yeah. So when that announcement finally happens and the US is no longer the reserve currency of the world, that is going to cause the rest of the world to sell their US dollars, which is going to cause huge inflation in the United States because all of those US dollars all over the world are going to come back to the United States. It's going to cause huge inflation. So the only way they're going to try to combat that inflation is by raising interest rates. And they're going to have to raise them uncontrollably. And that is going to, I believe, implode the economy, the bond market, which will lead to the stock market collapse, which will then lead to the real estate markets collapse. So I think all this stuff is happening. And I think the safest thing to be in right now is precious metals because it has been money for 5,000 years. And it's always maintained its purchasing power. Got it. And then as far as comparing today's time to historical periods, I would say the late 70s is where we saw inflation like we are today. And during that time, silver went from $1.33 to $50. Okay, so it went up 41 times. So it may not be that investment that pays yield or dividends or rent or whatever you may be, but it has that upside potential to explode when inflation takes off.
So you're really bullish on silver specifically?
Silver specifically because
it's so low right now?
Because it's so low in comparison to gold.
Isn't silver somewhat of a...
industrial commodity?
Yeah.
It's a huge industrial. It's one of the most important commodities in the world.
But isn't it not necessarily as rare as gold?
It's more.
Is it more rare? Because I've heard it's not. I heard it's not all that rare.
Oh, so they currently mine 7 times the amount of silver than gold. Okay, so there is more silver than gold. But above ground right now, it's 1 to 1. Okay. There's the same amount of gold as there is silver. And the reason for that is because 70% of all silver that gets mined gets used for industrial purposes and then gets thrown in the garbage.
Interesting.
Okay, so it's used in cell phones, laptops. But the 2 biggest growth areas are solar panels and electric cars.
Interesting.
So there's huge green initiatives in in Europe and the United States that are going to require EVs and solar panels to grow materially over the next 5 years. Got it. There's already the biggest shortages in silver are today in history. We're waiting 2.5 months. We were waiting 4 months. There's going to come a point, it's going to be 6 months, and then there's going to come a point where nobody in the world is going to be able to buy physical silver.
Interesting.
I'll be calling my wholesalers. They're going to say, sorry, we got nothing.
Interesting.
People will be coming in here trying to buy it. I'm going to say, I got nothing.
Interesting.
That's the world we're going to enter. So that's why I'm so bullish about it, because it's such a scarce asset.
Got it.
It's also an asset that is necessary for the world. It's also been money for 5,000 years. Like silver, the US dollar used to be called a silver certificate.
Okay, yeah.
Like you should be able to turn in your dollar and get silver back.
Got it.
Okay, it's not that it's just an industrial commodity. It's also money. It's also jewelry.
Interesting.
It's got so many amazing use cases, and it's scarce.
Yeah, yeah.
So 1 billionaire can actually, and it's such a small asset. Like there's not a lot of silver in the world. So 1 billionaire can buy up all the silver today, and that's what happened in 1980. The Hunt brothers cornered the market. They bought 100 million ounces.
Wow.
Silver went from $6 to $50 like that.
Wow.
Okay, we're going to see the same thing happen this time, but it's probably not going to be 1 billionaire.
I was going to say, so hopefully spread out, right?
It's going to be spread out because nobody wants to. Because people know, like how
the world's a lot smaller now too, right? You can't be pulling shit like that.
No, and trust me,
the market will call you on it, right?
Well, Warren Buffett's been tapped on the shoulder. Let's put it that way.
I got it.
Because he bought it once in the 90s, and he sold it right after.
Interesting.
So these big guys are now. Elon Musk is going to be the biggest buyer of silver in the world because of his Tesla. It's going to require enormous amounts of silver. So he should be talking about silver, how important it is, and stockpiling it. But he's never even mentioned the word silver.
Interesting.
For reasons.
So this is suppressed in the media big time. Silver.
Big time. You'll never hear about silver. Never.
All you hear about is gold.
Right. And what's gold used for? Nothing. Honestly, it's money. It's jewelry. I mean, it is used in industrial a little bit, but silver's used in everything. Because silver is the best conductor of electricity in the world.
Interesting.
Better than gold, better than copper, better than everything.
Interesting.
And it's 60% cheaper than its 1980 price. Imagine if you were able to buy real estate 60% less than its 1980 price.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
Yeah, with its use cases growing up. Like the use cases today for silver, there was no cell phones and laptops and solar panels and electric cars. None of that existed. Not to mention the money supply since 1980 has gone up 18 times. So in essence, you could say silver should be 18 times the price of 1980, which was $50, so $900. Yeah. And we're sitting at $25.
Interesting.
This is an asset that will be in the thousands of dollars, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Okay, I think in 5 years it would be 500 to 1,000, but could be well above 1,000, depending on how quickly this whole thing.
I think this is so wild.
It is
that. I think it's so wild that EVs are being pushed so fucking hard.
Yeah, why?
They require
it's insane.
Limited resources, just like oil. I don't get it.
Right.
You get what I'm trying to say? All the shit that it takes. It's worse
on the environment.
And it's worse. Exactly. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Oh,
totally. It's hilarious. It's so politicized. It must be.
And it's all, in my opinion, there's a variety of reasons, but I think the main is control.
What's the reasons?
What I think one of them is control.
Okay. I see that.
The other is to start a war with the East.
Okay.
Because it's green versus non-green. The BRIC nations, none of them are green.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you got Europe, the United States, and Canada going green.
Interesting.
All Biden has to do is switch his whole stance on the green initiatives.
Yeah.
And actually join forces with Russia and China instead of fighting against it.
Yeah.
You have a losing. You can't win in this situation. Right now. What are you trying to accomplish? This green initiative that nobody else in the world wants.
Yeah.
Just you. And trust me, these ideas, they were talking about EVs for decades ago. Yeah. And they realized it didn't make sense.
So funny. I saw this clip by Dan Pena, and whether you like that fucking guy or not,
I find him entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. Whether you like him or not, he's still funny. But he was like, "Don't you think that if we wanted electric cars, we fucking have them by now?" Exactly. Like it's hilarious, right? Or even like the whole climate change thing, right? Or the whole whatever the fuck they're doing right now. You hear that argument?
Yeah, yeah.
It's hilarious too because I own property on the water, and I have never seen that in a policy where if your shit goes underwater.
Exactly, they would never insure it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's hilarious, and I've seen skyscrapers being built down there when I was there, and I've talked to people that own $100 million properties on the ocean, and I'm like, hey, is this actually a thing? They're like, never seen it once, not in any of my. They have flood insurance. But like you can get flood insurance if it was so certain that $100 million building was going to be underwater in 10 fucking years.
Exactly.
There's no way you'd have flood insurance. No way.
100%.
Exactly.
So
and those videos are floating around like crazy.
Like listen, money talks at the end of the day. Like no fucking insurance company is going to insure you. Exactly. Like when you got hundreds of millions of dollars behind that, you better believe they're doing their due diligence, right?
Sure.
So there's no chance.
It's impossible to achieve. Like California and Canada by 2030,
right?
Everything's going to be electric. They're just going to move that goalpost.
So to give you, exactly, it's impossible.
Yeah.
So first of all, there's not enough silver in the world for EVs and solar panels, and anybody in the silver market understand that because there's not enough silver right now. Like we've been in a deficit for 4 years in a row. So now we're like over 100 million ounces that we don't have.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, where is this silver going to come from? All these new growth initiatives. It doesn't. They said if they continue at this pace, what they're expecting to have for solar panels by 2050, it will. What the numbers they're throwing at you, you do the math. 98% of all this annual silver supply would be used just for solar panels.
Wow. Eh?
So right now it's 20%. That would go to 98%. So where is the rest of the silver coming from?
Is it like hidden in the world somewhere? No, they all know where it is.
It's not. It's not.
Really,
Nobody even mines it. There's only like a handful of silver mining companies.
Really?
Most of silver comes from being a byproduct from mining for copper or gold. Or
is that right? What happens? They happen to find it?
They happen to find it.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is. That's where most of the silver that comes from.
Really,
Yeah, so
that's crazy. So what's the price of gold right now?
2,000 US and silver's 25. So it's
$25
an ounce. So it's 80 to 1 ratio.
Wow.
So historically, if you go back thousands of years, that ratio was 16 to 1. And that 16 to 1 ratio was based off of, they used to mine 16 times the amount of silver versus gold. So it was fixed. It was all dependent on, if they did 20 times the amount of silver that year, the ratio is 20 to 1.
Interesting.
Now they're mining 7 times the amount of silver than gold. So the ratio should be 7 to 1. So at $2,000, silver should be about $300.
Interesting.
It's at 25.
Interesting.
So silver's cheap compared to gold. Like I'm not telling people to rush out and buy gold.
Yeah.
You're not going to get rich up buying gold. It's just going to maintain your purchasing power. It's like putting cash in the bank without losing to inflation. You're guaranteed to have the same purchasing power in 10 years.
Yeah.
Which is great. Some people need that.
Yeah.
Some people are super wealthy and that's all they need to accomplish. They're not trying to get rich.
Yeah.
But silver is an asset that you can actually make 50 times your money.
Interesting.
In less than 5 years.
Interesting.
Which excites me because I've done that before in the crypto world, right? I've seen the opportunities and then it comes to fruition. And I do truly believe between now and 2030, silver will be $1,000 and above.
Interesting. So you talk crypto. I got a rig.
You got a what?
I got a rig. Yeah, I got like 22 cards.
No shit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't really do a whole lot. I don't really know a lot about it.
You
but
need to.
yeah. So I mine Ether.
Good for you.
I think 2.0 kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in there.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about it.
You have a guy running it all for you.
Kind of, yes.
I got some good people that can help you.
I got this guy. I don't know. Tell me about it.
I mean, I'm a big fan of crypto.
Yeah,
I mean,
like what kind? Like which ones?
Bitcoin and Ethereum for sure. I mean, I own about 80 different cryptocurrencies, but again, I wish I didn't own 80 at this point. A lot of them are down 95% since 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Where Bitcoin's only down like 55%.
Got it.
So Bitcoin...
Those are big numbers, man.
But some of those coins I bought also went up 300 times.
I got it, yeah.
400 times. Yeah, Bitcoin didn't do that huge.
Got it.
So, I mean...
if you had to pick one coin, what would it be? Bitcoin?
If I had to pick one, it'd be Ethereum.
Yeah? Why is that?
More upside.
More utility?
Yeah. Every major corporation is contracted with Ethereum team.
Interesting.
They're in the Ethereum Foundation.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think a lot of major corporations will be using that platform.
I hear so much about Bitcoin because it's like what do they call that? The
digital gold?
No, the Immaculate Conception or whatever.
I've never heard that one.
No, like it was like because nobody knows like where
who made it.
Yeah, like who made it. Nobody knows. Yeah, nobody knows who made it. Nobody knows like where all the hubs are, or they can't control it. You know what I mean?
I love Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that I don't know who created it. So
okay.
I kind of feel like maybe CIA government created to be able to usher in central bank digital currencies, get people familiar with cryptos. Here's your digital currency. And then they take away the
that's
Bitcoin.
upsetting to find that out because isn't Bitcoin like
if Bitcoin was
opposite of that, right?
Right, but if Bitcoin was... Trust me, Bitcoin could be so much better. Like if he's the smartest guy in the world, he wouldn't have created Bitcoin. He would have created something much better than Bitcoin.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's zero privacy.
Yeah.
It's slow.
Yeah.
It's
expensive. That's one thing that I've heard.
It's expensive to use. It takes up enormous amounts of energy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other cryptocurrencies out there that are more private, quicker to use, cheaper to use, more efficient. There's better technology out there.
Got it,
Bitcoin just has the network effect. So it makes me wonder, like
it's got that node, that node network, right? That nobody can. Isn't that what it is?
The node.
The node network, is that what it is? I might be talking.
I'm not sure which one you're.
Like where
there's nodes in every.
That Bitcoin specifically though, that they can't like, I don't know, they can't track it or like, I don't fucking know anything about this shit.
They can track it. They could track it back to the initial owner. So that's why it's not private, right? Every single transaction on the Bitcoin network is available for the whole world to see. Why is Bitcoin though so much more? Because it was first. The network effect? Jeez, there's another reason. It has to do with their network, why people are so trusting of it. It's decentralized? Yes. I think that's what it is. The code can't be changed. Exactly. You don't have a president that can just say, they don't know where, like, is that what it is? They don't know something about... Right. If it's centralized, that means that the code can be changed tomorrow. Exactly. You can just pump in another trillion coins and devalue it, like XRP. Yes. Ethereum's like that too. Yeah. There's a lot of different coins that they can just unleash them that are centralized. So Bitcoin, that's the best thing about Bitcoin, which is why I like it. Why it protects its value. But it's decentralized yet. I don't know. I still have a little bit of doubt who's behind it. Got it. I mean, there's always that unknown, right? I see. Interesting. But I think you definitely need to own Bitcoin. You definitely need to own Ethereum. If you want to gamble on some of the other ones with smaller amounts of money, go ahead. Got it. But those two you need to have in your portfolio. Got it. For sure. And you think that fiat currency is moving that way too? Well, we're going digital for sure. Because, I mean, you got almost every country talking about ushering in a new central bank digital currency and very soon. I mean, you had Christine Lagarde from the ECB, European Central Bank, saying that they're going to be ushering in the new euro digital currency like very, very soon. Interesting. And that they will impose controls on that. Wow. Meaning you're going to be limited to how much you spend. You're going to only be able to buy a certain amount of steak, a certain amount of gas. Man. Right? You can only buy things within a certain radius of your home. You have to spend it by this time or it goes to zero. Wow. Like there's so many different things. You didn't pay your taxes, your account's closed. Yeah, this is how it's going to be. You're going to have no more freedom. And that's the scary part. Yeah, and it's guaranteed to happen. Yeah, you got the United States, Fed Now is going live in July. So it's a whole new payment platform on the blockchain. That's what's called Fed Now? Fed Now. Starts July. You can look into it. This is the beginning of central bank digital currencies. They're going to ease it in as a payment method. But then eventually you're going to have to use that to pay for it. So what happens to... like the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, when that starts happening? I guess nothing. Does it maintain its value? $1 equals one Fed now. They're gonna have to decide, but probably to start it'll be something like that. Something like that, because I've heard a lot of people are like, oh well, when that happens, the actual fiat currency is gonna take a shit. I don't see that. I don't see why they would do that, right? I don't think they'll do that either because they don't want to panic everybody. They want people to use these central bank digital currencies. So I think they're going to use incentives to make people use their digital accounts. Like, we're going to give you $1,000 a month if you open up a digital bank account. Imagine that. I guarantee that's how it's going to play out. Yeah, and people are going to rush to that. I mean, they are. Or even more, like 5,000. Or if you want your government rebate check for whatever reason, if it's a return on your tax, whatever it is, you're only going to get it if you have a central bank. Makes sense. Fuck, they gave you free burgers for joints, didn't they? Or free joints for, what was that? No, it was free burger for vaccine. For vaccine, fries too. Yeah, and there was a free joint too. Like you got a free joint. Yeah, what was that in BC? I think they gave it like a free joint for fucking vaccine. Oh, I hate that clip. That was the best one. Here's a joint. For a respiratory disease. What? And everybody was like, oh my God, that's great. That's amazing. Or a Big Mac and fries. That's really going to help. Holy fuck. That just showed how desperate they were. Oh, man. What a world. So this is who we're dealing with. Well, that's the thing. Back to this. I think they're going to introduce it with a crisis, like they do everything. Sure. Of course they have to, the vaccine had a crisis behind it. You had COVID, right? Yeah, it's the only way you would... I think when they really get people into it, like there'll be I think the dollar. It could be the dollar, the US dollar collapsing. It could be a cyber attack, which the World Economic Forum talks about all the time. They've done their what's that thing called that they did Agenda 201 for COVID for the pandemic. They had this whole thing orchestrated. Yeah, they do the same. They have the same thing today for a cyber attack. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So. My guess is it's coming. Why would the World Economic Forum talk about this? You could hide that shit so easy. Right? Yeah. And then blame it on Russia. And now your money's gone. Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah. Now we need a more safer system on blockchain so it can't be hacked. Exactly. okay, we're going to believe that. And now they don't take any responsibility for the old financial system collapsing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it was their fault. It was all set up, staged.
Yeah.
And then we go to war. And I mean, this is kind of what I see coming.
Oh, yeah. You better not put this shit on YouTube. this guy go on Rumble.
This is going to be a Rumble episode?
Oh, yeah.
I think we're headed for a Rumble episode. 100%. Exclusive Rumble episode.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%.
We're going down that path already.
Yeah, that's just what I believe is how.
Oh, 100%, man.
Yeah. And it just seems
I believe it too. I don't know enough about
the finance.
The back end and the macroeconomics of it. You know,
but you sense something coming.
Oh yeah,
right.
I mean, I know something's come. From my perspective, with respect to the real estate market, I still think at the end of the day, people need some place to live, and at the end of the day,
100%.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I do think that it's only going to be the wealthy left buying homes. I don't necessarily think
government.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that it'll tank the real estate market. I think it's just if interest rates start to skyrocket, sure. I mean, it's only it's volatile with respect to how high the rates are, right?
For sure.
But at the end of the day, I mean, if we're talking massive inflation, the real estate market typically still, you know, the new build costs will still or the existing real estate market will still trail new build costs.
Right.
So if we have massive inflation, I still think there's a reasonable situation there to think that, well, if it costs now $20 for a 2x4, how the fuck are we going to build this house? And how do you justify the new cost of a build is going to be $1 million, but this used house is going to be $100,000?
Right.
Because it tanked the market. It's not going to make sense.
No, I agree.
So that's my perspective of.
But I do think when that happens, when that inflation gets to that level, the rates will be increasing significantly to bring it back down, right?
For sure.
And that's when I feel like you're going to see the most amount of pain in the real estate.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like we just saw. I mean, it went down 30% in a year. I mean, it could go down 60% in 6 months if they really raise rates at the wrong times.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. The properties that really took a shit were, number one, you couldn't even justify the price that you were paying for them.
The big, you're talking like Vancouver, Toronto.
Yeah, all that stuff, right? Like people were just getting crazy, right? You got 40 offers on a house, you get emotional, right? And then number two, especially around here, I'm more so talking about around here. I see a lot of weird shit on like Twitter about Toronto and fucking Vancouver.
Right.
Guys, okay, number one, people need to stop looking at Toronto and Vancouver as like Canadian cities.
Yeah.
They're global cities at this point, okay? Like look at what's going on in Hong Kong, fucking Beijing, London, England, Mexico City. Like stop looking at those two cities as Canadian. Start looking at it globally. They're anomalies in a country that everybody's still calling for affordability. They're not affordable. Get over it.
Exactly.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
You're going to have to start doing what people do in London, England, where if you want to work in London, you got to fucking commute an hour or 2 hours or whatever, right? It is what it is. Or you don't go there or you don't work there.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. But in terms of here, the houses that really took a shit were just stuff that was pushed out in the county where nobody could actually get a home, or like shit in the West End, the Droulards area.
It's the good area,
good area. Yeah, like I own a lot of stuff in good areas that never really went down that much.
Not that much.
And even at the same time, I don't really give a fuck because I know it's going to go back.
Criteria.
Right.
Would you live there?
Yes, I would not live on Hickory.
Yeah.
Okay? I would not. I'm not living on Peter Street in the West.
Yeah.
I'm just not doing it because I know it's number one, it's shit. And number two, this.
Yeah.
Right? Rates move 3%. And the shit hits the fan in those areas.
Yeah.
It's because nobody wants to live there. They were only buying in those areas because it's fucking Toronto area or Toronto lawyers or agents were telling them, oh, look at this house. It's fucking 250 grand, 300 grand. And you can cash flow when really there's no cash flow there. They're not going to pay your rent. It's a fucking napkin deal, right? It's
That's the biggest risk I think I see in the real estate market is collecting rents.
Oh, I was in court today.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
the
which is fine now. Maybe now it's 10% of
I have to pay the guy fucking $2,700 to get the fuck out. I'm not even joking. Legit. $2,700, 2 months free rent.
That can't be fun to deal with.
Oh man, I want to jump over there and kill him. Like straight up, I want to fucking strangle him to
But what do you
death.
do? But what do you do? Because you might be in this situation at some point, hypothetically. Let's just say 10% of your people now don't pay. What if that number goes to 40, 50%?
Yeah, I lose everything. Like, that's fine. I won't lose everything.
But it'll be
but at the end of the day, that's a risk I'm willing to take. And because from my perspective, you still need places to live. The government can't have that happen.
The government will probably subsidize it so they can pay their rent.
Something's gonna fucking happen. Something's gonna happen.
Somebody will be paying rent.
The banks don't want the houses back, especially in Canada. In the States, it's a little bit different because the States will take your house back and then hire third-party management to actually manage it on behalf of the bank.
Right.
That was actually something that Savoni used to do. Is he used to manage properties here for I want to say banks or even smaller credit unions because he was a good operator. I don't know if that happens, but that sure doesn't happen at scale, and that only I believe happened during the process of foreclosure, where he might have done it a couple times, where he maybe had a private loan on the deal, like something was not normal with that. But banks here, they are not in the business of managing real estate. They look what just happened. Like some of these amortizations on homes are like fucking 75 years now.
Oh, they're allowing that? I thought they went to 40. They just extended.
Well, what's happening is you have variable rate. They keep your payment the same, and they just extend out the. So if you actually work backwards and find out, okay, well, if my variable mortgage, if my variable rate mortgage payment stays the same, I'll give you an example. If you take a 2% rate on a $500,000 home, you paid or put down 5%, so you're paying on a $450,000 mortgage. At 2%, you're going to pay it off in 25 years. Okay, if that rate went, hypothetically speaking, that rate goes to 5%, which is what we've seen in arguably the variable rates are even higher now.
50 years.
Exactly. 100 years to keep that $2,000 payment the same, and to pay that house off is 100 fucking years. So now that's if nothing changes though, right? Like obviously within the course of 100 years, it might go to 20% interest, it might go down to 0%. Who knows, right? At the end of the day.
Right.
But that 3% difference, 100 years. But what banks are doing is they're letting you do that.
Yeah.
So, like, listen, speaking of which, he who holds the gold can change the rules. And that's what's actually happening right now. So that's what we're seeing. That's why I'm not like, every time this kind of shit happens, something else happens where somebody's going to pick up the fucking pieces. That's my perspective.
There's always going to be value.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if shit gets to that point, we're all fucked.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
We're so fucked.
Because that's when it comes with now you're thinking like that quote from the World Economic Forum, you will own nothing and be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't just throw this statement out there just to throw it out there. So there is that possibility that maybe they do crash the whole housing market.
Yeah, listen.
And take over ownership.
For sure.
And now you're not allowed to own it anymore. Yeah. Even if you did own it, you have to sell it back to the government.
Something's happening,
right?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, put it this way. I'm going to buy some silver from you. We're talking about shit hitting the fan. When shit hits the fan, I'm going to trade that silver in and I'm going to buy more guns. Yeah. That's what I'm doing. So at the end of the day, that's why I'm not necessarily, if it gets to that point and I have a bunch of real estate, I don't think having a bunch of other types of assets
are going to be any better.
It is going to be maybe they might be a little bit better, but it's probably going to be the last thing I'm fucking worried about when people are the feds or who knows who is coming knocking on my door.
Exactly.
Like that's kind of what I'm going with.
No, I get that point. I agree with that. I definitely do understand that.
But it just helps people. I think the main point here is to diversify.
For sure. Yeah.
So there's it's great. Real estate's awesome, but these hard assets, what people are not into in the mainstream. You need precious metals in your portfolio. You need crypto just to get you peace of mind.
Yeah,
especially what's coming ahead.
Yeah, for me, yeah, for sure. Yeah. For me, I like the idea more about precious metals than anything else. So I'm only
other than real estate.
Yeah,
right.
I'm only businesses, real estate.
Yep.
The only reason why I have a crypto rig is because I don't even know why. I don't have a good reason. I got to be honest. I don't know enough about it. The only reason why I was like, a couple people were like, hey, you gotta get into crypto. I'm like, ugh. And I'm like, listen, the only way I'm gonna get into crypto is if I can make it.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to buy it because if I make it, buy the cards, at least I have the cards that I could sell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. And I have the actual, technological background, at least with the guys that, the software developers that I have on my payroll, that they can offload the actual equipment. Yeah. So I'm not losing that much, right?
Sure.
So that's why I got into crypto. It wasn't anything else. Plus, it was like all hyped up and everything, and I was gonna come out with an NFT and shit like that. Really? So it was kind of like
I still might one day when it gets hot again.
Yeah, I had a guy make developing an NFT for me at work. He actually knew how to do it.
Nice.
So and then what I was going to getting into the crypto game was develop a coin to accept crypto as a form of investment to buy real estate. So that was where that was all going.
Into real estate. That's
good, exactly. Tied into real estate. Try to not allow. I was gonna try to like scathe the tax system, I guess you could say, with all of that. But it seems like there's a lot of mechanisms coming into play where they're just fucking.
For sure.
They're getting in you there. They're getting their tentacles in.
But back to your statement about you're saying, okay, I'd rather have guns and bullets at that point.
Theoretically.
I agree. But we don't need to get into a Mad Max scenario, a total call-out or end of the world scenario for gold and silver to perform well.
Exactly.
Like in 1980, it wasn't a Mad Max. Obviously, it was a really bad time for real estate. Higher interest. It was tough. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But it didn't end. The world didn't end.
Yeah.
We went through a 40-year bull market in bonds and real estate market exploded. So things did well after.
Yeah.
So it's not like the world's going to come to an end.
Yeah.
It's just that transition to where the dollar dies and we go through high levels of inflation. Metals are just going to happen to perform best in that environment.
For sure.
It won't be real estate. It won't be other assets, just because historically it's always been metals that do best in that situation.
Yeah. And that's why I do like it. Sold me on it. Yeah. So I'll probably buy it. but you know what you should do is show.
Bro, I just figured out you're a cyborg. You're in everything. Now
we talk about diversification.
Like crypto, golf course, Coachwood Capital, Canadian Protein. You're all over the map.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Would you say you were getting in recently too at the beginning?
Yeah,
I got a car dealership license.
Yeah, car dealership. Oh my lord.
Specific, not. I don't have like a lot. I'm only going to deal with like very unique cars. That's it. Like I'm not.
I gotta have some of that Canadian protein. I need this energy, this ambition. I wake up and say, I'm buying 2 houses today.
Not in Windsor though.
Yeah, U.S. Or I'll just give the money to you, Coachwood Capital.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. Yeah.
And let you do it all.
Yeah.
So how's that work? How do you bring in investors for Coachwood?
So basically the structure is if you're a Canadian, you invest into a Canadian corp that owns the US corp that owns the property. Now there's a bunch of back end stuff, but that's the high level situation that's logistically how it works, right? But there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of back end stuff.
But are you using any marketing techniques to get people?
Oh yeah. I'm leveraging like my audience. I got a decent audience. I got decent. Like it's.
How long have you been doing the social media thing?
Well, I started the social media stuff for my car pages like a while ago.
Okay.
And nothing crazy, but this stuff for the Dan Crosby CEO.
Yeah.
Back in I want to say beginning of December.
Oh.
So fairly new. Yeah. Fairly new. I started the podcast a little bit before with my buddy Scott. That was just too volatile where Scott's like, I can't meet you now and this and that. I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm like, he's too like, he's too
we're gonna get Scott on the show too.
For sure. He's very bullish on real estate too, but I still have him on.
Sean Hassan we just had on was super bullish on real estate as well.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Why not? Right? They sell real estate. I mean, what the fuck?
But you can tell when they're not lying. It's truly the belief, right?
For sure, 100%.
They're passionate about it.
Yeah, and
they're like not trying to get a sale on it.
No, of course, yeah, and for me, but yeah, going back to that, so I ended up transitioning to doing like a podcast or my own videos now, but I started doing a podcast with like my number 2 at work. Clark. So really what we do is we get in front of the cameras like this and the mics and we literally have our morning meetings like just on camera.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's what that
awesome.
is. It's not
you
like
guys cover great topics.
Like Gary Vee just videos his whole damn day.
I wish I can get into the whole people are always like, oh, why don't you document like all the shit you're doing? I'm like, oh, it's a lot. Man. Like when I'm like in the thick of it, like I'm in like 4 lawsuits right now. So when I'm like I can't like talk about that kind of shit like I'm like suing 3 people. I'm getting sued by 1. Like there's like a lot of shit. I can't like talk about that kind of stuff.
You can shut the cameras down.
You're very transparent. Like in your YouTube videos.
Dude, I'm getting...
And I think that's going to make you more successful.
It's so uncomfortable for me, man.
No, I feel like taking notes sometimes. Because you go into detail. Yeah. So I bought this property and I did this. Yeah. And you're like, step by step. I'm like, it's valuable information.
I know. A lot of people like it.
Here's one, how I amass a $200 million net worth.
You know how uncomfortable that is for me to say that shit?
Uncomfortable?
It's super
uncomfortable for me telling you that. I feel like it's too intrusive.
God. Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even be in Windsor anymore.
Yeah, I can't. Like, but people love it. But people love it.
Sure.
People love it, right? Like,
yeah,
it's just, and like, don't get me wrong. Like, people might see that. That's why. Yeah. That's why when I threw that up, my marketing manager was like, "Dude, put that out there, right?" Yeah. So first of all, you get a bunch of people like. Bullshit, right? Number one.
Yeah.
And then you get and then you get and then you get a bunch. You get a lot more people that are like, okay, well, how?
Yeah.
So then that's why I made it because it's just a simple multiplier, right? Canadian Protein does $25 million a year in sales. You multiply it by 5. It's $125 million. Yeah. That's the multiplier of those companies that sell. That's right. Then I got over 100.
That's what you can sell it for,
I got like 150 million in real estate, and it's not that leveraged.
Right.
Yeah.
$200 million. Yeah. Like I don't know.
Sure.
Like it's very easy to, but I also don't.
Well, you just explained it.
That's what it is. Like,
that's all you need to know.
Like literally, that's it, right? So, but I don't live. The reason why a lot of people have a hard time believing that is because I don't like live
that life.
Yeah, I got cars.
Yeah,
but I don't like I don't have like the watch. I don't. Where's your Rolex? Well, what do you mean? I got a Rolex? Like I don't like watches that much.
I would not listen. I know you. We've hung out. Our families have hung out.
Yeah,
you would never guess it.
That's the best.
He is super. I've never. You're more down to earth than the people that I know making 50 grand. No, I'm serious.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel weird. I don't. I didn't have a lot. You know, when I was growing, I wasn't like poor or anything, but I didn't have a lot. My parents were really poor growing up, so I share that, mindset that they kind of, I was working young, man. Like I was working. They say, hey, you want to own whatever? You want to buy this? All right, you got to work.
Yeah.
You know, right? That's it. Yeah. So I don't have a choice. Yeah. You know what I mean? Exactly. I'm talking about youngster over there. Yeah. So it was just I don't know, and who likes those kind of people anyways?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, fuck. Exactly.
Fuck you and your Gucci shoes. Like, you know what I mean? Like that shit's ugly anyways. Like, what are you even wearing that shit for?
Why are you a billboard for fashion?
Get some blazers or like Nike blazers. Fucking $100. Like, shut up.
That's all I wear.
Like, I remember going back to Marco. This is going to be funny. You should clip this out and send this to his ass. He comes over my place one time. He's got seal fur boots on.
No,
there was seal boots with seal fur on them. You know how ugly that shit was? And they had this little thing underneath that you could flip, and it had like ice pegs for like in the wintertime.
Oh,
dude,
God.
that guy, like he didn't hear the end of that for me. It was ridiculous.
$2,000, dude.
Yeah, they were ridiculous.
Oh my Lord!
Like I can't vibe with that.
No,
it's not my thing, man.
Oh man, I'm the same.
You know,
I'm totally the same.
Like I dress for the gym. That is it.
You only see
that's it.
on my shoes.
Those are
that's
good.
it.
I like those. Those are nice.
Yeah, that's
fucking
it.
Indoor soccer look.
I can't wear.
You're Italian. You guys, that's the look. The indoor soccer.
What is your nationality?
Irish and Portuguese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my mom was from Azores. My dad was born here. My grandfather, like Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah. So like
nice.
Cool.
Poor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my mom grew up in a fucking house that was probably the size of this room with 12 people in it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then, they moved.
That was the norm across the world.
Yeah. And then they moved here. Crazy story, actually. They moved here. My grandfather came here first, landed in Montreal, got hit by a train, died.
Fuck off.
My mom, my grandmother was pregnant 6 months with my mom, was on a boat here, didn't know he died, got here, found out he died, had to go back because she didn't have anything. Had to go back to Portugal, and then my mom was 6 years old when she ended up coming back here. They ended up working on a farm. They were so poor that my grandmother, like in Harrow or whatever, picking tomatoes. My grandmother used to have to put my mom in like in the stable, and the kids used to kind of play because couldn't afford babysitting or whatever.
Wow.
So they used to kind of like watch the farm family in the stable or whatever with the animals. And then she brought all her family over, and they lived in this fucking 2-bedroom house in Harrow with like 13, 14 people. So like I see all this shit today, and I'm like, you guys are fucking idiots. Like you guys don't even know what.
And they're complaining.
Yeah. Like, what are you even complaining about?
It's incredible.
I can't afford rent. Like, but I only want to work 6 hours a day, and I need my $10 macchiato chocolate vanilla frappe from Starbucks. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, are you kidding me?
A different world.
Like, what are you talking about? So like, I was like delivering papers when I was like 9 years old. Illegally. You know what I mean? My mom, like, it was under my mom, but I was the one doing it. Like, shut the fuck up.
I was selling golf balls and pop on the golf course at 10, making like $200 a day at 10 years old.
Like entrepreneurial? Yeah. Like what? Yeah, see, I was never like that.
I lived on the golf course.
Oh, nice.
Like, so I would just find the balls on my lawn or around the farm, go out and sell them back to the golfers.
That's awesome, man.
Smart.
Yeah, I never had that entrepreneurial spirit. It was only really when I started seeing my buddies graduate with like degrees and stuff like that, and here I am, a fucking dropout.
So you had
and I was like, the fuck am I
put a fire in you?
Yeah, like it was kind of like, man, I'm gonna be such a loser if I don't do something. I was never like this. I'm still like inherently lazy, I feel.
Yeah, me too.
For sure. Too. I would much rather like watch movies all day and eat McDonald's. Like, for real. Like, who wouldn't?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, who wouldn't?
But that's probably why you're setting up your life in a way to be able to do it.
I am that. Dude, I'm telling you, I'd much rather watch Netflix all day and eat McDonald's. Especially
your
Big
key
Macs.
ingredient is you're ambitious.
Yeah.
And just like when you met with Simone that first time, you could get all the information on all these guys from books you go, but if you don't have ambition, you'll never be successful.
Of course.
Never. And that's your key ingredient.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You're like a human conglomerate with.
But what do you think the main driver for the ambition?
I have a significant fear of failure.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah, for sure. And to be honest with you, like let's I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I truly do believe the reason why all of this stuff exists is because of women.
Oh, what exists?
Straight up. Why? Straight up. The cars,
that's your motivation.
The money. Yeah. Deep down, I don't care what anybody says.
Trying to impress somebody.
There's a level of you doing all of this to get to a certain socioeconomic status for us to instinctively pull high value women. I don't care what anybody says. I don't give a shit.
But in essence, it's also the ego, right? The same one.
Which comes from
wanting to
exactly.
Yeah,
like I don't.
You're not going to have much of an ego if you can't.
Put it this way. Listen. Yeah, exactly. Put it this way. If the world was only men, it wouldn't fucking matter. It just wouldn't.
That's true.
Yeah. It would not matter. I don't care what anybody says. The reason why, like, to be honest with you, the whole pivotal point in my life. You guys don't have to put this shit in, but whatever. The whole pivotal point in my life was when I broke up with a girl, and I was crushed. And me and Scott at roughly around the same time, and we were like, dude, like we can't go through this anymore. We need to be able to figure out what will pull the highest value women and develop a lifestyle in order to keep them.
Right.
That is it. And once you figure that out, it's fucking game over. I don't care who you are, what age you are, what background you have, it does not matter. Because like, listen, at the end of the day, we are here to provide and protect. I don't care what anybody says.
I agree.
That is the goal of men. And if you can't do that, you're not going to get the highest value woman that you possibly could. And that was a pivotal point for me. I was like, fuck this shit. I'm done. I'm not going to be this type of guy that doesn't know how to, attract a certain type of environment, a certain type of woman that I want or that I truly want.
Sure.
I'm done. I'm going to learn exactly what I need to do in order to take or to get to that point. And then here we are.
Yeah.
That's it. I knew at the end of the day, I have to provide a certain type of lifestyle. And it's not because women are gold diggers. It's because they require, especially high value women, they require a certain level of protection and being able to provide.
Demand it, yeah.
Exactly. Especially high value
women.
Should. And it's not about being a gold digger. It's about,
I expect this.
Exactly. Like long, gone are the days where you have to go out in the wilderness with a fucking spear.
Right.
Your bank account's a spear now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So that's or even your material possessions. Your material possessions are indicative of who you are as a person and how far you've grown as a man. right? Sure. That we're talking about exotic cars. That exotic car at least qualifies that man to some extent prior to digging a little deeper. It's the same shit as a bombshell walking through your door here. Okay? You don't have to know her personally. All you have to know is she's a fucking 9 or a 10. It doesn't matter. Okay? So obviously digging deeper, it starts to matter, right? And digging deeper with us starts to matter. But at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's the fucking game.
It's true.
That is it.
It's true. It's always been that way. Too.
Exactly. Like you can't fucking change it. It doesn't change. I truly do feel that it's harder. So like if you're a high value man these days, like you're a fucking anomaly. Like you're an absolute anomaly. And I do truly feel that if you are a high value man, you will bring out a high value woman.
For sure.
Because more than likely that high value woman has never even been exposed to a high value man because we're so far and few between. So that's my personal take on it. I know that was a pivotal point and that was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing else. There was nothing else that changed my life. It was that. It was a breakup. Yeah. It was the fact that I was crushed, and it was the fact that I was like, fuck this shit. I'm not going through this again. And I'm gonna develop the type of lifestyle and develop the type of character that I know I need to be able to do to provide for the woman that I want. And in order for me to do that, I need to produce a type of lifestyle that she's going to find attractive, period.
Yeah. I got it wrong. I thought you just had to be funny.
No, I'm not funny.
And then
I'm just not funny.
That's right.
That's funny.
I want to play this little thing called CEO versus CEO. Elon's all over the press right now. You guys are both CEOs, so... the first one is Elon warns about the dangers of AI. On Tucker Carlson he was on. It's a threat to human civilization. What do you guys feel about AI?
What was like the context?
Yeah, I know.
Well, the context behind it, he believes that right now with all these AI programs going everywhere, and before it was, I think he's the one who started ChatGPT.
Yeah, he was saying that, right?
Yeah, he was behind. But then Microsoft got involved and they bought it. Now you got all these companies doing AI. I think he's like, we got to govern this because if we let this loose, and
I think AI is going to be a good thing for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously some scary stuff eventually that probably will come, but I think we're a ways away from that. But I think I've already seen these automated McDonald's. I don't know if you've seen these yet.
No.
Even banks. They make your food in store with robots and they bring it right to the.
Oh, really?
Well, Amazon's got a Amazon Go. You go in there. There's nobody in there.
Yeah.
You pick their thing. They know and they charge your Amazon.
So in the U.S., there's Bank of America's now where there's no tellers inside.
Is that right?
It's all, So I mean, we're going that way, but I think that's a good thing because. Who the fuck wants to work at McDonald's?
Yeah.
Like you're providing no value to yourself or to anybody else. Like there's certain things that should be automated.
Yeah.
Do you like nothing against people that work on the line at Chrysler? I mean, trust me, a lot of my friends do it. It's just, do humans really need to do robotic jobs?
Yeah.
Are you really providing yourself with the best?
Yeah.
Are you really using your mind and being passionate about your job? Probably not. You're probably just doing it for a paycheck, right? So if you eliminate those robotic jobs, I think that is good for humanity. Now people are going to be able to use their minds, be creative, and they're going to create new opportunities because of all this automation. I mean, so I think there's going to be a lot of positives that come from automation.
The only thing that I've seen that people are expressing as an issue with AI is being able to look up like how to make a bomb, how to do this.
I think that's always been there, though, right?
That's what I mean. Like, I'm pretty sure you could figure that out, though.
Well,
what's he actually saying?
Yeah, like, does he mean like military-wise?
No, he fears that, just like in the movie Terminator,
here's a good
Skynet, where computers become far more superior than humans, right? And they figure out the game, and they say, we don't need you guys.
Really?
Eliminate you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's what he actually thinks?
Yeah, that's like what he thinks. If you don't put an agency to regulate this, it could be the end of humanity. Because that's what he's saying. It's a come to life James Cameron Terminator Skynet.
Like New York just implemented, like you've seen those robotic dogs?
Yeah.
So they actually went live in New York like in the last week.
Doing what?
Walking around the streets with their cameras.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. So it started.
I don't know how that learns. Like like don't get me wrong. I understand
at an exponential rate.
I understand. Like
it's able to know who's who. I think.
Oh, if you let AI loose, there's I don't know. We could research, but there's been cases where it's already went south where
really
it becomes they had to like shut off systems because it went beyond its tasks, right? So
are you talking about
it gets a scary time.
So you mean like just malfunctions?
No, they become smarter.
Oh, smarter than the humans.
So somebody's like, okay, I don't like Dan. I need to kill him.
Yeah.
Use this robot.
He's over here right now. I can't. Let's go in here and kill him.
Or they
that's what we're talking about?
They could figure out, like, if everything's run by AI, right? And they could figure out that humans are the virus and they'll launch nukes and get rid of the humans and just rule the world.
Definitely I think military is going robotic for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
crazy shit.
Well, that's what he fears, right? So he's saying
now nurses as well. Like there's a lot of these. They've been building these nurses that are able to communicate with old age people at the old age homes who have nobody to talk to all day.
Really?
These nurses are sitting around talking robots.
Really?
And the people are actually liking it.
Really?
Yeah, because who else is listening to old people, right? They're sitting in their room all day talking, watching TV. They'd love to actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's where for sure. There's
going to be a lot of positives.
A lot of positives. He's saying you have to control it because if you let it loose,
I agree.
It could turn on us.
Yeah, that's great.
Because it's super intelligent.
I don't know anything about that kind of shit.
Yeah.
That freaks me out.
I know it is scary. His next thing was Elon Musk warns of potential financial crisis in the U.S. later this year.
I did see that. I saw a clip of that.
Yeah,
where he was talking to Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, exactly.
Tucker's had some good guests lately.
I think there is a serious danger with the global banking system.
Mm-hmm.
So he fears that, interest rates are going to skyrocket, where people's equity is going to be negative. And
Glenn Beck said the same thing last week on Tucker Carlson as well. He thinks the dollar is going down, interest rates are going to skyrocket. Same stuff I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, it's impossible. People have been saying this for years that it's going to happen, right? Yeah. For a long time, the dollar's going to die. The dollar's going to die. So I mean, it's not like I know it's going to happen, but. Well, I do know it's going to happen. I just don't know if it's going to be in 2 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
I think less than 2.
Yeah.
But I've been wrong many, many times.
Yeah.
So it could easily be 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd just rather be early than
for sure
late.
That's the kicker, right? Okay, well, you can't predict markets, but at least you can analyze trends and try to
predict.
Try to at least come up with some sort of hedge against what's going to happen here.
Yeah, as long as there's a hedge.
But you can never really you can never time it. And I see a lot of these people.
You might get lucky. Every now and then somebody gets lucky and they tell you about it for the next...
you call for a fucking crash for the 20 years. It's going to come true.
I'm sure I'll take credit when I'm right. Even if it's 10 years late.
These guys, right, they've been calling for a real estate crash since fucking 2010. They're like, see, I told you. I'm like, buddy, you've been fucking saying this shit for 15 years.
It's true.
Like, what are you talking about?
It's true.
You know what I mean?
And I'm guilty of it because I've been saying this for a while now.
Yeah.
And silver's still $25. You know what I mean? I liked silver 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But here we are, still doing nothing. So I've been wrong.
Yeah.
But I've been right about what's happening.
Yeah.
Just not with the price of assets.
Yeah.
Which is, eventually I hope I'm right. But
yeah. Interesting.
Some things take longer than others.
At least, what do we...
It's impossible because they control all asset prices, the powers that be, right? Through interest rates and manipulation of assets. Yeah. Derivatives, paper derivatives. Yeah. The whole financial system is just one big Ponzi scheme.
Just corrupt.
It's all rigged. Oh. Yeah. JP Morgan paid $1 billion fine for rigging the precious metals markets a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. One guy just got criminally charged from JP Morgan for that.
Really, eh?
So, I mean, it's well known. Like, these guys are gangsters. I mean, these banks are... Yeah. They just control it all.
That's the problem that I have. That is the only problem that I have with this. And don't get me wrong. I absolutely do think the interest rates are rigged, which inherently rigs the real estate market and all that kind of stuff. I'm not oblivious to that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day... I keep on going back to the fact that we still need a place to live. That's why I'm so
100%.
I don't for me
we need a place
that's
to
why
live. But like you said back in the day, you had 12 people living in one little home.
Yeah.
And you weren't the only one.
Yeah.
Okay, my family had the same thing.
Yeah.
When you moved from one country to the other, you had 10 people in a little house, and it wasn't for a year. It was for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So I just think there might be a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Families moving back in together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, trust me, I agree with you. That people are going to need places to live, but are you going to be able to own that house?
Yeah.
Or is the government going to have to take possession and we go into full-on communism, socialism? Like, this is what the risk that we're at now, right? I mean,
at some point, like for me, I have to imagine that if it gets to that point, again, like
that's gonna be
what are we really actually worrying about?
Your fortune.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree.
Like I don't know at what point.
I agree.
You know, you've got the government coming in and taking people's houses and taking people's investment properties.
But they took your gold and silver in 1933. So I mean, it's not like they haven't done this before.
Yeah, I think you start fucking with people's like houses and
in
coming
1933, what's that?
There was the gold confiscation in the United States.
They actually took people's.
You were forced to turn in your gold and sell it back to them, and if you didn't, you went to jail.
Wow, what a time!
I don't think that's going to happen again, but it's the quotes that scare me. The World Economic, they don't throw this stuff out there for no reason. Like,
for sure.
What do they mean by that? And I've been trying to figure it out ever since. I have no idea. You will own nothing and be happy. The only thing I could think of is it's going to be full-on communism, socialism. You don't own the house, but the government pays for it.
I think
you're able to live there.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't own it, but you're happy because you don't have to worry about the bill of the house. I don't know.
I think before we get there, we're going to see a very large divide between the people that own that kind of shit versus the people that can't own that stuff.
I agree with that.
And it's happening now.
The divide's just going to get bigger.
The divide's going to get huge.
The middle class is going to be gone.
Exactly. There's no middle class. There's poor and there's wealthy. That is it.
Right.
And that's what I think that they more so mean.
Okay.
Right.
So you think the well-off will still be able to own the homes?
Yeah.
It's just the poor are going to be so poor they have no chance of owning the house.
Potentially,
That might make sense.
Which is the masses.
That might which
is the masses.
Talking to the 99%.
And then at some point you might see at that point what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Right. Or we're going to be subletting our property to the government, who then leases it out to the poor.
Right.
Something along those lines. Because
that probably makes more sense.
Yeah, I don't think that you could like fuck with that too much. I think that's way.
You could see a basic income come into.
Oh, I think that's a guaranteed universal basic income. And again, they'll be using those central bank digital currency accounts for that. Well, and also 15-minute cities, right? I mean,
not too much about that. I remember you brought that up, right?
So that just happened in Windsor, and it made international news waves. Is they were trying to introduce that in Essex County.
Yeah, I heard that.
And a ton of people showed up where they had to cancel it because they couldn't hold, the facility wasn't big enough. People were lined up out the doors, and obviously they weren't there to support it. They were there.
What is the...
Well, a 15-minute city is...
Why do we not want that?
A 15-minute city... So once again, they sugarcoat it, but people are getting smarter because... If you lived in the last 3 years, the pandemic, and you haven't figured out what's going on, I really can't help you.
I'm assuming it's control.
It's all control.
It's all control. Exactly. So 15-minute city
I don't know why. I can get the idea because everything in there could be more controllable.
They're saying your workplace, hospitals, shopping will be all within 15 minutes of your home.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Are you allowed out of that 15-minute radius
for
any other reasons?
Yeah, they're saying
certain reasons or no?
No. They're saying you can.
Oh, for now. Then they'll change the rules.
What happened during the pandemic? It was lockdowns. So now this 15-minute city, I think it's going to be easier to lock down people with climate lockdowns that supposedly are coming down the pipeline. So if you're in a 15-minute city, now all they have to say is you can't leave your 15-minute city radius.
Right.
You'll be okay because you have a hospital, you got food, you just can't leave it, okay? Because we have a climate lockdown.
I gotcha.
They don't want the chaos, right? They don't want you rebelling against the government out on the streets fighting, and they want you in your house, quiet, domicile.
Yeah.
So when this financial system, like let's just say there's bank runs, they don't want people on the streets fucking going nuts. But if they have these 15-minute cities and you're going to get criminally charged for being outside of that, people will think twice about leaving it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or you can't coordinate and form a group to fight back against that government tyranny. You're if you're stuck in your little 15-minute city.
I gotcha.
You know what I mean? So there's that too.
Yes. It's all about control, and it only makes sense, logic. Just like you guys were saying, EVs is not
like
going to help the climate.
The question is why now, right? Like we've been around there's never been such thing as 15 minutes. Why now? So to me, that's telling me something really, really big is around the corner.
Exactly.
Which is going to they're going to really want you to be calm and in your own
house.
I can't imagine how long that would take to put together.
Yeah, I know.
That's going to take huge.
I think they've been working on it for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
But where?
Well, I can't believe
it's
in your backyard.
My backyard.
I don't know. I'm going to try to go to the next meeting.
I only seen this in other big cities, and I couldn't believe when I seen it coming to Essex County. I was like, "What are you talking about? This is." I actually got scared a little bit.
Yeah.
You know when you see it on TV?
So it was in the county of Essex.
Yeah.
Was it for just the county of Essex?
I think so.
I think it was.
Yeah.
So they haven't talked about anybody else.
No.
But obviously that's like their test pilot.
No, exactly. You got to. This agenda is not going to happen in 2 months.
2030 is the year, right?
Yeah,
that's
2030. Exactly. It's going to be down the road, right? But they got to plant the seeds.
Yeah.
They got to start somewhere. So maybe we'll wrap it up. Dan, you want to plug anything for the listeners to follow you? How do people get to see Dan Crosby?
Yeah, if you want to follow me,
we'll put it in the link. We'll add a link below on this.
Yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere at Dan Crosby CEO.
Okay.
And if you like cars, Lambo Lapdog.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. Okay.
Yeah, I got my cars up there. So that's kind of how I started with the social media thing. It was kind of a little bit of a ghost.
Right.
Nice.
With the cars, but
Coachwood Capital, we'll throw in there, .com.
Yeah, Coachwood Capital. You get to partner with me on U.S. real estate, and if you want to get your shit right, tight, CanadianProtein.com.
Yeah, and you can find it at
what?
Costco.
Oh yeah, coming soon. Coming soon
to Costco. Okay, yeah.
Or CanadianProtein.com.
Yeah, Canadian Protein online.
Yeah, and if you golf locally here in Windsor, hit up Coachwood Golf and Country Club if you need a limo.
Any major changes from Fox Glen to?
I put in a couple $100,000 in the interior of it.
Okay. Clubhouse?
Yeah, in the clubhouse, the venue, stuff like that. In terms of everything else, not a whole lot can really change on the course itself,
sure.
But we've got some serious chemical programs out there now.
Nice.
For to maintain the course.
Okay.
Which
I heard
was
some
never really
positive
doing
things.
things.
I heard from golfers.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So they never really we were drilling core samples now, sending them away to analyze the soil, grass, everything like that, so that we can get the proper programs in place to change the course conditions and improve them, which was not being done before.
Okay.
So we did a lot of that last year. Unfortunately, grass is so shit and slow. It's going to start coming to fruition in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Hopefully at some point this year too.
Okay.
Yeah, we got some new irrigation going in the fall.
You a golfer?
I'm not.
No, just
bought
a golf.
He bought a golf cart.
I'm not a golfer.
He's a cyborg.
Yeah.
He's not human.
I gotta take it up this year.
This is a government project.
I'm gonna take it. I use the lost and found clubs at the course. If I ever go out there, it's a little bit here and there. I've only gone once. To be honest, I played 3 holes last year. That's the only time I've been on the course.
It's too funny.
Yeah, I've never actually been around.
Okay, guys, this is episode 3 of the Gold Awakening podcast with Michael Piccioni, and we had Dan Crosby. Be sure to subscribe. We're going to be available. I don't know if this episode will be. Maybe a Rumble exclusive, but we're on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, and all your major podcast platforms.
Awesome.
Don't forget to subscribe. And we'll definitely have Dan back again.
Yes, that was fun, Dan.
We haven't even
really
scratched the surface with him.
This guy's a beauty.
Yeah.
That's fun. Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome.